Welcome to the Wealth Marketing Podcast, where we explore the latest trends, challenges, and opportunities shaping the financial industry today. In each episode, we bring you insightful conversations with industry leaders sharing practical, actionable strategies to help advisors deepen relationships and meet growth goals. I hope you enjoy. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Wealth Marketing Podcast. I had the pleasure of interviewing Lyndsi Edgar, founder and CEO of eLuminate Marketing, where she helps professional service firms build real visibility through smart, strategic digital marketing. Lyndsi's especially known for her expertise in LinkedIn, and her content strategies turn consistency into credibility. This conversation is critical for anyone wanting to leverage LinkedIn in a bigger way for growth. Welcome, Lyndsi, to the Wealth Marketing Podcast. I'm so excited that you're here today. Before we dive into LinkedIn tactics, I first want to sort of take a step back and talk a little higher level on why you think LinkedIn is an ideal platform for professionals and why people should treat this as their primary channel. I do think in general, LinkedIn is sort of underappreciated in terms of the amount of traction you can get and how it can transform your business. So I'd love for you to share just sort of philosophically why you love LinkedIn so much.
Of course. So thanks so much, Rosemary, for inviting me on the podcast. Really excited to be here. In regards to LinkedIn, I do hear from quite a few individuals that come to me and say, I get spammed so much on LinkedIn. It's all about people selling themselves. And so they don't have a strategy of how they want to go about doing LinkedIn. And so they tend to steer away from it. And I would recommend against that. So LinkedIn is where professionals, over 1 billion of them, with about over 65 million being decision makers, go to be educated, to learn, and to connect with others. So that's really number one. It's the platform for that particular manner. You can also reach people based off of the audience that you want. So advisors can target by job title, seniority, what company, even what company size or industry. And that is completely unmatched compared to other platforms. Additionally, it's really a great place to add value and showcase your credibility. So here is where you can consistently share educational content and build trust around your brand. Additionally, something I use a lot is also take advantage of mutual connections. So shared relationships. Perhaps there's somebody that you really want to get in front of, and there's an individual that you know that is friends with them, that works with them. And so that individual can help you get in front of them. And then lastly, I'm sure we all know this, but if somebody refers you and they want to potentially work with you, what do you think the first thing they're going to do is? They're going to look you up. They're going to look you up on Google. They're going to look you up on LinkedIn. And we want to make sure that you have a really strong profile so it helps you rather than hurts you.
I would agree with all of that. I am curious to know, I would love for your take on why you like LinkedIn compared to other social channels. I know at Wealth Matters, we have migrated most of our efforts for the majority of our clients into LinkedIn. Most of our advertising dollars are in LinkedIn. I'm curious to know how you feel about LinkedIn compared to Facebook, compared to Instagram. I'd love your take on that.
Because of who I'm trying to get in front of, LinkedIn is best for me. And as an advisor, I also feel that that's a great platform for any type of wealth advisor, because the individuals that are on LinkedIn are looking for connection. They're looking to learn. They're looking to educate. And sometimes Facebook and Instagram, yes, can you go there to learn and be educated? Yes, but we're typically going over to TikTok or Instagram or Facebook because we want to be entertained. It's not always for work matters. So with LinkedIn, when you are providing value add content and you're providing it to your ideal clientele, that conversation will then slowly go from digital to offline to potential meetings to potential clients. And I really see that within LinkedIn rather than the other platforms. However, if you are a B2C company where, you're selling widgets, okay, that social platform might be best for you. But in the world of where you're working and you're trying to get in front of other professionals, LinkedIn has been by far our best bet.
And for our advisory audience, when we're trying to get in front of the ultra high net worth family audience, right? We're looking for individuals often who are high level executives, business owners, people who in general are high level professionals. And so I think I would agree with you, LinkedIn, while most of our clients don't do necessarily focus on a B2B strategy, they are B2C. I think that your point about the difference between marketing professional services and widgets, like two very different worlds.
Right. And you bring up a good point in the sense of some of these high level executives are so hard to get in front of. They have so many gatekeepers, whereas LinkedIn has really allowed me to get directly in front of them, unlike any other channel. And so that's why I do advise utilizing it, creating a strategy, and staying consistent with it.
Totally. I agree. Okay, let's kind of start at the beginning. You've told me before that the profile, the present starts with the profile. Can you tell me what makes for a great profile on LinkedIn? What needs to be there? What needs to be removed? What do you see on people's profiles that you think is like kind of cringy?
Yeah.
I want all the info.
Yes. So typically it starts with a strong profile. So I know a lot of people are quick to, okay, what should I be posting? What should I be doing? How do I get meetings? Well, let's take a step back. And first, when you are creating that content, people are then going to go to your profile to take a look at you. So let's make sure that piece is strong first. And so there are a few things that I like to make sure are in place prior to starting a content strategy and starting a LinkedIn presence. So one, making sure that you have a clear professional cover photo. So yes, image, we all know, having a strong image needs to be there. But that cover photo on your LinkedIn profile page, that's the most underused real estate. When you get to that profile, that's the first thing people see. So use it intentionally. I wouldn't, use like generic skylines or random nature photos or vacation shots. Use it to communicate who you help and the outcome. And so you can use Canva to create that graphic. You can hire out for somebody to create that graphic for you, but definitely utilize that real estate. So that's number one. Secondly, your headline. So yes, we have job titles out there where it's, financial advisor at XYZ Wealth. However, sometimes doing a one sentence statement can be more impactful. So I helped business owners simplify retirement planning and reduce tax exposure. So you're setting the frame of what your expertise is actually in and what you do. So think about that headline rather than just a job title. Then there's the about section of your LinkedIn profile. And most people are going to think, well, about section, I need to talk all about me and what I do. But let's be honest. At the end of the day, people really care about, what are you going to do for me? How are you going to help me? So you need to make that about section 2 to 3 sentences about the client's problem and how you help solve that problem. Sure, you can include examples of, how you did help solve that or your approach or your processes. But the about section really does need to narrow down on who are you helping and how you help them. And then, of course, the last and most important would be to make sure that you consistently have education value add content. And I know we're going to speak heavier on that in this podcast, but having a strong profile is really only half of the visibility. Your content is going to prove your credibility. So making sure you are consistently putting out strong content that people can see.
Yeah. And we will dive into what makes it for a good content strategy. I'm curious to know in terms of the about profile, I see a lot of people just posting their bios. I see a lot of people skipping it. I see a lot of people, randomly putting stuff in there. I'm curious, do you feel that that's a great place to put sort of a value proposition of what you do as an advisor? Is that how people should think about it?
I would. So, thank goodness for AI, it can certainly help you. But if you look at your current bio today, and if it's constantly saying I, then it needs to be changed. You need to change it to you and what you could do for them. And so that's really a good place to start is first narrowing down who is your ideal clientele and what do they care about and how do you solve their problem. And that's really where you can build out your about section.
People love to talk about themselves, but as human beings, we really don't care about other people as much. We really care about ourselves. And so when an advisor or when a professional talks about my problems and my challenges and how they're going to solve for it, I think that really makes a difference. We've seen
Right.
in our marketing materials. And it's no, and I think there's a disconnect, right? So like the tenets that we would apply, the basic practices that we would apply in like a marketing deck or a brochure or a one pager, people somehow forget that those principles still apply in their LinkedIn profile.
And it certainly should. And yes, if you've won certain awards or if you have, if there are certain things that you do want to share to build out the credibility, you certainly can, but I wouldn't necessarily lead with that. First, speak their language and let them go, wow, this person gets me. And then from there, not only do they get me, but they have some very credible awards or whatever the case may be on their bio to help enhance that as well.
Any major faux pas that you've seen on someone's profile that you, if you don't?
Yeah. So a few. So the sunglasses on your actual photo. A photo where you crop other people out and it's just you, like just get your own photo. That's, now with these iPhones, it's very simple to do that. I would say generic terms. So like when people say like, I care. Well, I think there's a lot of wealth advisors that care. Go a little bit further about what you actually do for people. How do you care? What is the method that you use? What makes you different than other people? So I would say those are a few of the faux pas. And then my biggest faux pas would be not necessarily in the profile, but when you actually take the step to start engaging with people, immediately start selling. So let's say somebody, you've never met them before, you've never talked to them, and you immediately write to them saying like, hey, I'd love to jump on a phone call. That's like if you go to a barbecue and you walk right up to somebody and say, "Hey, I do wealth advising. Would you like to meet for coffee sometime?" That's awkward and weird, and nobody wants that. So making sure that you approach LinkedIn just like you would at an everyday party. Add value, have real conversations, and then yes, at some point when you feel like it's time to ask to meet for coffee, then do so.
Sort of the soft sell approach.
Yes, absolutely.
Kind of warm them up.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've hinted at it. We've sort of mentioned it. I know I've certainly lectured about it until I'm blue in the face, but content. I want to talk about a content strategy that works for LinkedIn. Of course, before we talk about content, we have to sort of introduce the ideal client profile. How should people think about their ideal client profile before they ever start posting, and why does that matter?
Of course. So that's actually part of our process at eLuminate Marketing. So we have a 3-step method. And the first part of that method is the establish phase. And it's really important to make sure that you have your foundation done first before you start posting. I understand the desire to get started and let's start creating content and posting right away, but you're essentially posting on quicksand. So before you do that, you need to take a step back and you need to identify who is that niche? Who do you serve? And then once you do that, then what do they care about? What keeps them up at 2 a.m.? Think about those topics because that will help you develop content that's actually going to resonate with your audience. In addition, back to that unique differentiator. So, what makes you different than all the other wealth advisors out there? So, when you establish those points, then you can get started on developing content.
And when we say content, what do you mean?
So content could be anything from an image with messaging, so just a simple post, a video. Videos are very popular right now on LinkedIn, carousel, LinkedIn newsletter. Those are also a really great opportunity as well. So really it's any type of information that can be dispersed to your LinkedIn connections.
And what type of post or format works the best? Like video, text, articles, graphics. What do you see drive the most engagement?
So it's funny that you say that. I have noticed that the best performing posts have nothing to do with whether it's video, carousel, graphic, or no image at all. It's if you have a real, authentic opinion and you're not just copy and pasting what other people are saying, or you're just copying what AI spits out at you. The people that take the time to provide authentic, real opinions or great tactical advice always get better engagement. Staying away from stock photography, get real photos, real examples, real tactical advice, you're going to see better engagement. I've seen people's engagement where they just have messaging and no graphic, no image at all, and it does significantly better than, a photo with kind of not really thinking too much about the messaging. I just want to post. So really take a stance on something and give your opinion, and you're going to notice a difference in engagement.
And sort of treat it like it's an actual conversation with one of your clients, right? So,
Correct.
would you send one of your clients kind of a bland white label piece of content that doesn't really speak to anything that you do? No, we wouldn't do that. At least I hope you wouldn't do that. So why would you do that on LinkedIn? It's not about posting to post. And so
Right.
I think that really makes a lot of sense.
Yep, absolutely.
And can you talk a little bit about frequency? So we hear, in my experience, one of the most difficult parts of any kind of marketing strategy is the consistency. It is producing content and posting on the regular. A lot of times the advisors that we work with, they're not necessarily social media naturals. So it is an effort. It is something that requires a lot of mental energy for them to post on LinkedIn. What do you see as an ideal frequency?
So it goes back to the quality over quantity. So I would much rather a advisor take the time to create 2 really strong pieces of content where it provides great education or thought leadership that is different than what somebody else has seen, than 5 generic, let's just grab some stock photos, throw something together and call it a day. So start with the system of creating strong content, whether that's once a week, twice a week. And then once you get into the rhythm, then you can slowly increase it. And that's essentially how I started. I started with, I think, once a week. And because I just, I didn't have the time to really focus on my own personal LinkedIn. And then we developed a system. We identified who's our ideal clientele. We figured out what content they really care about. And so then we've slowly ramped up to now I am posting every single day on LinkedIn. And I do see an increase in impressions, but it has more to do with the quality of the content than the quantity.
Mm-hmm, totally agree. I usually say to my clients, it is about quality over quantity. And as long as the content is timely, relevant, interesting to the target audience, it will get some traction and resonate. But by the same token, on the other hand, I also think that posting once a year even if it's the most thought-provoking, profound commentary in the
Yeah.
world, is not an effective strategy. So we do want to see some frequency. What do you think is like a bare minimum for an advisor who's super busy, who does produce thought-provoking content?
Yeah, I mean, bare minimum is once a week. Definitely bare minimum. And for those that are having that hard time with consistency, having a system in place is important. So goes back to that foundation again. Who's your ideal client, and use AI to help you generate topics that ideal client thinks about, or take a minute to sit back and go, well, what are some of the most common questions or concerns that my clients are asking me? Because those are the topics that you should focus on when you create content. And then something else that we like to do is each month you start with a kind of a foundational idea. So let's say, okay, in the month of December, we're going to focus on tax planning. And so that's the big idea. And then from there, you can create micro pieces of content with tax planning. So start big and then create micro pieces from that theme. And then lastly, of course, is outsourcing it. So you are busy doing your real job, not marketing. So having the right team in place that creates a strategy and asks the right questions and knows what they're doing, now that is taken off your plate. So it'll never, stop happening. You'll always be consistent in creating your content.
I will say it's very rare to see, especially in the advisory space, it's rare to see someone who is able to run an advisory company or be an advisor and also be a natural marketer. Those two things are not often in the same person. And so it's okay if you have to outsource that function. And there are great ways to outsource social media and content production. It's just a matter of creating a plan to do it. And you mentioned that there are systems that you can put in place. What are some of the hacks you've seen where people are, busy professionals are able to start a content marketing strategy, post on LinkedIn in a way that works for them, with knowing that we're all so busy, knowing that we don't even hardly have time to eat lunch. What's a way that you've seen be successful?
Number one is actually setting aside the time to do it. So I have a reoccurring tab on my calendar. So it makes sure that on, Fridays, the second Friday of the month for an hour, I am putting together the calendar of the topics I want. I'm putting together the graphics or what needs to be done. And because I set aside that time, I have to make sure to do it. So having just simply like time blocking those moments of time does help a lot, because if you just I'll do it when I'm not so busy, well, that's never going to happen. So making sure you actually time block it is going to help you make sure that it gets done.
Totally. I want to talk a little bit about advertising. So we have a lot of people that come to us and are ready to jump into an advertising strategy. Can you talk a little bit about why you think LinkedIn is effective with advertising versus other platforms? And what's the best way to sort of dip your toe in the water if you're doing this yourself on LinkedIn?
So LinkedIn is great because, once again, you can really narrow down on who you want to get in front of. So if you focus on attorneys, you can get in front of attorneys. A good way to start with LinkedIn advertising is a beta that they actually recently rolled out, where you can actually boost your own personal LinkedIn posts. I do this myself, and I've found it very effective, because if you not only boost it, so there's kind of some best practices for this. So if you go to create the content, once again, let's make sure that content really speaks to your niche audience. So back to the example of attorneys. I will write a post that's specifically tailored to attorneys, and then I will boost that post to attorneys. Then what happens is LinkedIn will actually tell you who has viewed your profile after that boosted post. So then I will actually go to the next step and connect with those individuals that have liked or viewed my profile. And so then they can continue to see my my content, as well as maybe even start a conversation with them. And so this is a really great way that not only you boosting and just kind of hoping that things are going to turn out okay, you boost it, but then follow up with the people that are actually looking at your content.
It's almost sort of, you get to kill two birds with one stone. You get to not only see who it is that is looking at your boosted post, who's interacting with it, judge the efficacy of the boosted post, but then you also get to target those people specifically on LinkedIn.
Exactly. So that's a good starting point.
I love that. Lyndsi, how do you think about budget when it comes to LinkedIn advertising?
So for the boosted posts, I'm typically doing a $10 to $15 a day spend, and maybe for 5 days. So I'll take a post I really like, it's speaking to that audience, I really want them to see it. I'll maybe do $50 for 5 days.
Sorry to interrupt. What is that price based on? Is it based on audience size, geography? Is it the number of people you're targeting? What are the different factors that come into the size of the spend?
So the boosted post, that beta that I mentioned with LinkedIn, is simply just, this is a recommended amount just to kind of get in front of the audience. The metrics are a bit limited there. If you actually go into the ads manager, they will tell you what the potential reach or potential website clicks could be based off of the budget that you put in. So if you put $100 a day, it'll say at $100, it'll range between, X and X. And so I think it's a matter of just going in and playing with it to see, okay, if I put $100 a day, what are my expected results? LinkedIn advertising is certainly more expensive than other social media channels, but if you are doing it correctly, it can yield results. Something else to consider is warm audiences within LinkedIn. So people who have visited your website, viewed your company profile, viewed your posts, making sure that you continue to market in front of them because they're obviously warm. So that's another good starting point as well.
I love that. So it's sort of based on the money that you have to spend and your budget versus other sort of factors, the way that it would be on a Google search ad or something like that, where you pay for a specific audience and the audience size drives that cost.
And LinkedIn will help you with that. So when you go to put your budget in, they're going to say, this isn't going to get you any results if the budget's too small. So they have parameters in place as well.
So something that we always hear, that I am certain you also hear as well, is when is this activity going to lead to the phone ringing, people emailing me that have not heard of me before? When is this activity going to give me leads?
Right.
How do you answer that question? And in your experience, is there a time frame that people can look to start to see results from the marketing activity on LinkedIn?
Yeah, it's a great question. And truthfully, in the 20 years that I've been doing this, it's probably the most asked question that I get. And in the 20 years I've been doing this, I've discovered one main thing. So only about 3% of people are ready to move forward right now. The other 97% don't even know they have a problem, don't even know there's a solution to the problem, and definitely don't know that you are the solution to the problem. So LinkedIn is talking to that 97%. And so over time, when the need arises, or they realize they have the problem, they realize there's a solution out there, or they realize that you're the solution, they're going to pick you over somebody else. Additionally, a person has to see a piece of content or a brand at least 10 to 30 times before they take action. So if you're expecting somebody to see one LinkedIn post that you made and call you to manage their money, you are mistaken. So it's so important. I know we're speaking heavily on LinkedIn, but it's so important to have an omnipresence. Yes, LinkedIn is so important, but email marketing or display ads or other social media channels or being out in your community, because when somebody sees you in all of these places, you're helping build your credibility and move the needle. And another important piece with LinkedIn too, as I mentioned earlier in this podcast, is let's say somebody refers you and says, oh, you should talk to Rosemary. She's great. What's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to look you up. And so if they go to your LinkedIn and if it's sparse, there's not much on there and there's not a lot of content, that's not going to help you. In fact, that's going to hurt you. But if they go to your LinkedIn and they see this great content and you're speaking my language and things that you've won and what you're doing, they're more likely to give you a call. So while there's no set timeline in place for this, there are things that you can do to help with the ROI. So consistently posting, don't just start and then stop and start and stop. So consistently posting, keeping track of what's working and what's not. So if you're posting something and if there's a topic that just gets a lot of engagement, well, obviously you touched a hot button and let's keep it going. And then, as I mentioned earlier, let's say I did do a post and now I'm taking a look at who has viewed my profile since after I made that post, and I go out of my way to connect with them and maybe start a conversation. That conversation can eventually lead to a phone call, which happens quite frequently with me. So you can't just post and expect people are just for the phone to ring. You can post and then also engage and reach out to people and start that conversation to bring them from a digital conversation to an actual, real sales conversation.
In real life. And in real life.
Yes.
Well, this has been so helpful. And there's been so many things that we've gone over in terms of best practices for LinkedIn. I would love to know, before we close, what are the top 3 best practices, bottom line, that advisors should be doing on LinkedIn if they're only able to do 3 things? What do you want them to take away from this conversation?
Okay, so the top 3. 1, identify your niche. Who's your super consumer? And narrow it down. So then once you can identify that, then you can create content that's actually going to resonate with them. So when they see your stuff, they're going to go, oh my gosh, I've been thinking about that, or they're speaking my language. So identify that super consumer. 2, stay consistent with your content development. Don't start posting, get busy, falls by the wayside. Even if it's just once a week, keep that going. And then 3rd would be engage with other people's posts. So while you're creating content and putting it out there, make sure that you are also going to other people's content and engaging with their content as well. And something that I like to do is I not only engage with fellow colleagues or people I admire or people I work with, but I also will create lists of prospects and I will engage with their content as well. So it's a really great way of getting in front of them without coming across sales-like whatsoever. So engaging is another really great opportunity too.
Well, thank you so much, Lyndsi. This conversation has been so helpful. I think LinkedIn is certainly an untapped resource. And from where I sit, I think most people really underappreciate what LinkedIn can do. And it's certainly a very strong part of all the marketing strategies that we employ. And I know it's a big part of what you do. So I just really appreciate you sharing your expertise and having a conversation with me. How can people reach you if they would like to contact you?
So LinkedIn, I'm on it.
Imagine that.
So definitely, you can direct message me on LinkedIn. It's actually Lyndsi Stafford Edgar. So I'm sure if you put it in the show notes, so it'll be there. You can also visit my website at eLuminatemarketing.com, where there is a contact form there. And my email, which is my first name at eLuminatemarketing.com. So Lyndsi at eLuminatemarketing.com.
Perfect. Well, it has been a fun, just over half an hour with you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.